Okay, so this is how the small things are hijacking your day. Okay, and it's the difference between whether you put in max effort and get little to no results, put in max effort and you get good results, but you're tired, you're exhausted, you're burnt out, or you are putting in effort, but it feels effortless and you get max results, max return on investment of time and energy. And it's as simple as how you respond to these small things that hijack your days. Okay, now in an ideal world, we wake up and we feel calm. Okay. Your nervous system is what we call regulated. Your breath is steady. Your heartbeat is nice and slow, and your mind is clear. You can think creatively. You have access to higher function. Like it's everything is, it's working as it should. Your head, your mind, and your body are synchronized, and they're communicating. Okay. Then, inevitably, as often things happen, you will get an email from a client. You'll get blasted on social media, or you might be checking Stripe, and you've noticed that there's a 20% downturn on revenue since last month. So you get triggered. Okay? Triggered is the opposite of calm. Your nervous system is what we call dysregulated. Your mind and your body are no longer talking. They're no longer synchronized. You might notice that your heart rate is faster because you feel a bit anxious. You might notice that your breath is higher up in your chest and short and shallow, and you can no longer think clearly. Okay? Now, it's what happens after this that makes a massive difference between whether you're putting in max effort and getting nothing in return, or you're just continuing to take action and it feels effortless and you're getting huge returns on your effort and energy. Okay, so there's going to be 3 different parts here that we're going to look at. The next is, and it's someone who puts in max effort, but they're stuck. They're not really making much in the way of progress. And they might find at the end of the day, they always have this feeling like I should have done more, or they just didn't get through anywhere near as much as what they wanted to. And their nervous system continues to stay dysregulated. The small things keep on piling up. And it might not just be the end of the day. They might wake up the next morning and still feel this way. And then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. Could even go into weeks or months, or the longer that you're in this, the more it becomes part of your personality, it becomes your baseline emotion, to the point where you're not even waking up calm anymore. You're already waking up triggered, and you're so easily set off by any small thing that it just becomes your baseline, or even who you are. Okay, so max effort, stuck, and the way that a lot of this kind of person will deal with this is by going into a stress response, which is either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. What that looks like is fight. Could jump on the phone with that client who sent the email that something was wrong, and it could be about arguing with them to say how they're actually wrong and how everything you've done is correct. Or it could be spending the next 10 hours perfecting the issue so that there is no longer an issue. Could be working for the next 10 days straight on that account, outworking and putting in so much effort to try to make things good there as well. Flight, it could be procrastinating. It could be avoiding the issue altogether. Freeze could be overthinking. It could be worst case scenario, making up all of the catastrophizing in your head. It could be indecision or overthinking. So it's all of basically lots happening in the head, or you could just be withdrawing completely, going onto Netflix and binging, or doom scrolling. Or fawn, making up for what is perceived as a lack of competence with over compliance. And you're trying to people please, you're trying to be really nice to people to make up for something that you don't feel like you are delivering. Okay, now the problem with this is this all comes from a dysregulated nervous system. So in that moment, you are prioritizing safety. I'm pretty sure it's that. So everything in a business is either growing, and if it's not growing, even if it's not growing, it's going backwards. So if you're prioritizing safety, you are trying to keep things the same. So your business is going backwards, it's shrinking. Okay, so that's obviously not where you want to be. I'm going to show you some ways of getting out of this dysregulated nervous system, because it is well within your control, and it's very, very simple to do. And I'll give you some exercises on that. The other path that happens here could be the path of the high performer. Now, that might be, that's exactly what I want to be. But let me just get you to consider one thing. This could still be coming from a dysregulated nervous system. They're still triggered by that email, by getting blasted on social media, or by that noticeable dip on Stripe, to the point where they're still coming from a dysregulated nervous system. So they still want to fight. that's really the only one of these patterns that kind of fits in there, because people who are in flight, probably not going to make that much progress. People who are in freeze, again, probably not going to make that much progress. People who are in fawn, they can only make as much progress as the people that they are people pleasing will allow them to have. So fight, there will be some of these, but they'll spend less time in these. So this is probably more where fight's coming in, where they're going to try and outwork the competition. They're going to overwork themselves. They're going to burn out because they are prioritizing progress, but at all costs, including at the cost of themselves, their health, relationships, all of those sorts of things. So this is still a dysregulated nervous system, and it's still allowing small things to hijack your day. And it still can be, it's not sustainable, and it still can be something that might not be just today, it might be affecting you for the weeks and months to come as well. So if we look at two different ways to get out of these dysregulated nervous systems, to regulate your nervous system, you want to basically either calm your nervous system or allow your nervous system to continue through that activated stage. It perceives a threat. And in nature, if we see like a rabbit who sees a cheetah, it's going to be like fight or flight. No, it's going to be flight. So what we want to do is we don't necessarily want to just calm down, because there's still a perceived threat. So we want to allow our nervous system to go all the way through that cycle before we calm it down. Now, there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. We are very much a logic and rationale-based society. So many people will actually love to understand things. You want to reset your thinking, okay? So the way to do this is, again, we are a very logic and rationale-based society. So we want to understand what's going on. So for this, could be a journaling exercise. I'll put an exercise in the description below, or drop me a DM and I'll send it over for you. So understand what they're feeling, why they're feeling it, what's the belief that's causing it. This, for example, could be a story that they have from the email that the client sent, that so that there was an issue with some of the work that they delivered, could have triggered a story that you have that suggests that I'm not good enough. And then when this client sends this email, it's proof, it's evidence that the belief that you have already deep down is true. So then that will then activate into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, to the point where you are either overworking and putting 10 hours into making it right. You could be avoiding it and procrastinating on it. You could freeze. You could just be like, oh, I don't want to deal with this, and then just go on to Netflix. Or you could try and be nice and just trying to people please them, even though you might not be fixing the actual core issue. So if you reset your thinking, you're not just doing these by impulse or because you feel like you have to. By resetting your thinking, you gain back choice. You're resetting that story about, actually, yes, they sent me an email to say that there was something wrong with the deliverables on this, but that doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. That's not evidence to suggest that I'm not good enough, because every other piece of work that I've done for this and every other client was to a really high standard, and I'm really happy with it. So again, you don't want to just trigger that really deep belief that you have. You want to reset the story, okay? The other way is to rewire how you feel. Okay, so as I said, we are a logic and rationale-based society. So many people will need to understand something before they feel safe enough to allow themselves to feel differently. If you really trust yourself and you don't need to understand something or rationalize it to death or justify it to death, and you can just work with how you feel instead, this can be much quicker. This could be a 10-minute journal prompt, journaling exercise. This could be a 60-second breath work, okay? So again, it depends on what works best for you, but change the way that you reset how you think and or rewire how you feel, and you will be able to rebuild how you work, which will give you different results, okay? So either of these two, so rewiring how you feel, it could be a breathwork exercise, but again, it could be activating your nervous system even more, just to make sure that you're getting all of that feeling out. You're getting that, you know, your nervous system has perceived a threat, so you're taking action. You're not just stuffing it down and suppressing it for later. You are taking action in your body, whether that's push-ups or breathwork, but you're doing something to activate your nervous system. And then it could be you sitting in a meditative position, or it could be a little bit more of a calmer breath work. It could be going for a walk, just to allow yourself, your nervous system to calm down and regulate again, okay? Then there's the third path, which is genius flow. Okay, so either of these two, whether you reset your thinking or you rewire your feeling, will help you to regulate your nervous system and to feel calm again. That's what this this operator, this style is 24/7. Okay. So even in the scenario where they receive an email from a client putting them on blast, or they're attracting some negative attention on social media, or they've noticed that the 20% dip in revenue, it's either not going to bother them or not going to dysregulate their nervous system, because they are so, like, their baseline is so firmly in just being calm and present and able to take these things in. But they're also, they've got their eye on the big picture and the vision of what they want and what they love. So they're so firmly looking at that it's, even when problems come up, they don't see themselves as problem solvers. They see themselves as creators. They're always creating what they want, rather than, and giving their full attention to what they want, rather than, here's a problem, I'm going to give I'm going to give half of my attention to the problem, half of my attention to the solution. But if you do that, the problem and the solution will always exist. If you just create what you want instead, you of course you'll have problems that come up, but you will grow bigger than your problems, and then they'll either just cease to exist because you're so focused on what you want and you're just continually taking steps towards that, or you will come up with a way to get around those problems as well. But you are infinitely better equipped to come up with creative solutions to problems when you are calm than when you are stressed and when your nervous system is dysregulated. If you think back into your past, I can guarantee that whenever you're stressed, you're probably thinking of the same ideas that you've always had. You will never come up with a new idea or a good idea when you are stressed. It's only when you're calm that you can come up with the really good stuff that is really creative, that is all about moving forward and growth. And even if they do get triggered by the email, the social media post, or comments, or the revenue dip, they already have their ways of putting themselves back in a calm, regulated nervous system way of being that will enable them to come up with those things, to come up with the best ideas to move forward, because their way of dealing with stress is reset and rewire. Or they just rebuild the way that they work. Because what's most important to them is growth. And also peace. They want to maintain peace and calm because they know that it's a secret to them effortlessly taking action on the things that they need to. Because so much of this, like this is usually what we call self-sabotage. There's so much energy going into you holding yourself back, protecting yourself, maintaining things as they are, staying smart, safe, staying small, because you are prioritizing safety. When you're prioritizing growth, all of the energy that was going into holding yourself back, holding yourself down, all goes into what you want. It all goes into growth. Okay, so if we look at this, let's say, for example, like optimistically, how much energy is going into moving forward, and how much into protection in this top one. Moving forward, maybe 10%. I think that's being very generous. Protection, 90%, if not more. Okay, so you take one step forward and potentially 9 steps back. Here, you're taking a lot of steps forward. So it could be, say, forward, could be 50%, but then protection and just sheer exertion is 50%. So you might be moving forward, but you're buggered, like you're just burnt out. And here, it's all growth. That's all forward movement. When you're calm, all of your energy goes into how you can move forward. So you're just taking action, making progress. So if you're being really honest with yourself, which one of these 3 do you see yourself most in? Are you putting in maximum effort? And how much progress, or how much what kind of return on investment do you feel like you're getting for the amount of effort and time that you're putting into things? Is it because you see yourself doing all of these different protection, like ways of protecting yourself? And what is it that you're valuing on a daily basis? Is it safety? Is it security? And how much would you genuinely say that how much energy you're putting into moving forward versus protecting yourself? And how much of your day, if you think about your day, how much of your day would you say that you feel triggered or dysregulated or on edge versus feeling calm, like feeling like whatever the day has to show me, like bring it on, Like how much of a difference would your days be if you felt like that all the time? If you felt calm, if you felt confident, almost like cocky to like bring on the next challenge. How would that be different? And which of these do you resonate most with? Do you feel like you're a high performer, but and you do get really good results, but you feel like you're fighting every step of the way and you feel exhausted? You feel like you might be on the verge of burnout, and you're wondering how long can you keep it up for with 50% of your energy going into moving forward and 50% into protection? And can you see how resetting the story that you're telling yourself, you're thinking, or how rewiring how you feel and restoring this feeling of calm could help you to start thinking creatively more about the different ideas that you need to solve problems, or just even to sidestep or not focus on problems at all and give 100% of your energy and your attention to what you want and love most instead. Okay. And like, more importantly, do you see this is possible? Like, this is possible for anyone. Like, how you feel now, especially if you feel triggered, and especially if it's been for a while now, to the point where you feel like it's almost part of your baseline, how you just show up when you wake up in the morning. You got like that over time. It didn't just happen overnight. So with some training, with some work, with some resetting of the story, with some rewiring of how you feel, can you see how this can become your new baseline as well? Okay. So let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Drop me a DM if you want any of the journaling prompts or different ways to rewire how you feel in 60 seconds. A very short, very powerful things to change how you feel. But let me know, like, what's your biggest takeaway from this? Where do you see yourself in more? But more importantly, do you see how this can be possible for you with some training, with some conditioning? Let me know what your biggest takeaway is in the comments.